um, have been pretty remarkable and unprecedented. Certainly nothing that like this that I have seen in my lifetime. And so we wanted to first just acknowledge the fact that the events that are happening in our state and in our nation, they're not lost on us. And when we gather together this evening, it is not to put our heads in the sand. It is certainly not to ignore or to look in the other direction of what's happening. I think quite the opposite. Because of the fact that we're in education, we have this responsibility that we all feel, right? This responsibility to try to make a better world and a better future. And specifically, our event tonight, supporting student leaders during distance learning, trainings, orientations, and retreats. We have kids that look to schools as a safe space. And now more than ever, we need to create a safe space for our kids. And then also we're training student leaders, and we're training them not only to put on events at our schools, but also to be the leaders of the future and to hopefully take this world and make it better, because this is what we're passing on to these kids. So anyway, I just wanted to start this evening just by prefacing and saying thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you for being here. And we are very mindful of what's going on in our nation, and we are here, and we are in education to try to make this world a better place. So thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to our presenters, which is now the segue into Allison.
All right, so we have Christina Hillman, who's the activities director at Branham High School. She's also a member of the Area B Council. We have Sandy Curlin, who is our leadership development coordinator and retired former, how do we say this? Activities director at Ramona High School before she came on board and started saving us with Castle and really promoting our programs and developing the Leadership Development Day program. We also have Denise Van Dorn, a past president of CADA, also current Area H lead. I see a lot of Area H'ers out there on here, all the way up in Canada. I see Al, and I see Sandy. So welcome to you guys. And Denise is also the activities director at Bear Valley Middle School in Escondido. We have Carolyn Hill and Mary Beth Campbell from the Boomerang Project, who are going to talk to us about their new programs that they're putting forth. And they are a CADA sponsor, so thank you guys for your sponsorship and friendship. We have the one, the only, the living legend, Phil Boyd of Learning for Living, who is way past his bedtime, but he tells me that he's used to this because Giants games, he's still a Giant faithful. And he is in North Carolina right now, and going to be sharing his great ideas with us as well. And then right in the epicenter of Los Angeles, we have our friend and sponsor also, Phil is also a sponsor, Johan Kalilian, who is going to be sharing some of his ideas. So, you know, we're all figuring this out as we go along, and I think having input from a wide variety of people with different experiences is really important. And so we're grateful to all of you guys for being here tonight to share with us and help us serve kids. So let's take it away. And Ron, if you want to start that slideshow.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Awesome.
And then, hey, Ron, before we start, you want to just hit that mute all on everybody and then unmute our first presenter.
I will do that. And I will also, Jeff, thank you for reminding me, this is also a good time to remind everyone that if you have either a question for the presenters, or if you have a something, a resource that you would like to share, a great idea that you would like to share, something that you're doing at your school, go ahead and throw that in the chat, because the chat is a great opportunity for us to share. I had folks like Valerie, Vera Manier, and Randy Seligson. They sent me in advance some questions, but Valerie and Randy, if you want to throw those questions right into the chat when that time comes for that particular topic, then we would love to hear your questions and everyone's questions. Okay. Do we have everyone, can everyone see, can everyone see my screen right now, the slideshow screen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and begin with our very first presenter, Sandy Curland.
Thank you, Ron. I know that you created the timer for me, so I set my clock for 6 minutes, and I will talk very quickly, and if anything sticks with any of you, feel free to call me and ask me about it. But I know 6 minutes is vital, so I'm gonna throw out there everything I can. As Allison said, I used to be a history teacher, and then I went on to be the CADA Leadership Development Coordinator. And so my viewpoint is going to be a lot from what I learned from switching from seeing my ASB class every day to basically distance learning because we only meet in person about 5 times with Castle. So this is our lovely Castle president this year, Andrew Santana, and I put his picture up there to remind me of the quote, "Don't do anything for us without us." Which I'm sure also stems from the "nothing about us without us," but just as a reminder that that's the slogan that a lot of people use when there's policies or decisions made by somebody that don't include the group that's actually being affected. So I think my first piece of advice would be like, don't forget to take your ASB kids along the way as ambassadors for your school about what the students are thinking. And then I was thinking like how cool it would have been for us to have students on here also. And so then I thought if anybody's interested in this, hit me up. It'd be really cool to actually have our students have one of these, like all of your presidents, and then we could have some of the Castle kids on, because I know that they get hit up a lot for questions. So anyway, I just thought about that as I was putting Andrew's picture up there, which is like, that would be super cool to do. Should I just say click, Ron, to make it go faster?
You got it.
Okay, so as I said, I used to do ASB, and then we would meet every day, and that worked out great. And then I went to Castle, and I was like, oh, I don't actually know how to do this when you only meet 5 times a year. And I realized I've been social distance learning and teaching for a while now. Click. So interestingly enough, I was hired in 2009, like the same time this book came out called Drive. And 13 years later, I'm still using it because my first thought was like, how do I create this buy-in from everyone when I don't see them every day? There's gonna be months on end where I don't see them, but they still need to be doing work, which is really, really hard. So I picked up this book and read it, which was The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, which I loved so much. And I took the things that they said and kind of put them in an order that worked for me. Click. So if you don't have time to read the book, this is basically it. They were asking like, how do you motivate employees without giving them more money? Which worked out really well because I didn't have any money either. So I was all like, what are the things I could do? And they came up with 3 things. And so I'm gonna pass those off to you. Click. So the first one is purpose, which we all know is that desire to do something that's very meaningful. Second one is mastery, like to get better at skills. And the third one was autonomy. Everybody wants to be engaged, not compliant. So since I only have 4 minutes, 3 minutes, I'm only going to talk about purpose. But I will say for purpose, I looked into businesses. For masteries, looked at all the incredible sports teams and what they're doing. Autonomy works great for activities, using them as a venue. Click. So I decided what I would do for the first one of the purpose is like, I'm going to pretend I'm creating a nonprofit. So I feel like that's a great idea to switch your mindset over to what if you're creating a nonprofit group? Think of that, because you're not going to see them every day. So I'm just going to point out Ray Dealing, who's brilliant. Listen to his TED Talks. I show that one. And secondly, the podcast, How I Built This, is amazing, but there's one that I super love on there, which is about the Lift organization. And one of the things I loved about it, and this is an exercise that we could all do, is 4 years in, it was actually called Zim Ride. It wasn't even called Lift. It was Zim Ride. It was something totally different. 4 years in, like John Zimmer, the guy who started it, and his partner were like, what would this look like if we started the company today? Because it's really hard to unsee something that you've never seen before. So what would it look like if we started it today? And so I think that's a great exercise to go into now. And interestingly enough, I'm sure that at the time, like getting in some stranger's car seemed very not normal. So we're in very not normal times, so you have to really think outside of that. Click. And so this is what I do with Castle, and people have asked me about this, is how do you go about creating a thing? You can click again, Ron, because it'll come up with something in the bottom. So what I learned is like, I really want shared experiences, and I really want common language. So instead of just throwing out, here's Castle theme, we start with a message. If you could only teach the students of California one thing, what would that be? And they've come up with different things. And then in addition to that now, like what's the tagline? And then eventually the theme, because you can wrap a pretty bow around anything. So you can also do this with your schools. And the good things is that all these things are virtual. So these are actually conversations that you could just have also. So that's really cool. So just give you some examples, which they're going to go really fast, but they actually took endless days to come up with in person, virtually to do this. So message, here's some examples. Click. So empathy, we did this one about 7 years ago. The students decided that empathy was what they were missing on their campus. And so then we're like, okay, what's the tagline? And then we came up with know the story, know the person. And then it became like, where would you ever be knowing people's stories? And which is in storybooks. So we did Once Upon a Castle. Click. Click. Then they were like, initiative. We wish people had more initiative. And so we came up with be the first. And then it's like, when would people be the first? In a castle expedition, where you are like the first to find the water, the first to do that. Click. Click. Listen, that was this year's, is like, how do you listen? Choose to listen, Castle Cafe. Click. Click. You don't have to show the video around, but creating families is an amazing idea. You can ask me about it, but it's also all in how you approach it. Click. Pen pals, creating legacies. So we came up this year with like pen pals, which is alumni people who come back, which is really cool because now you get something in the mail. Again, everything you can do virtual. Click. You can read later. Click. And you can just go to the end, round with my slide.
Okay, and Sandy, out of fairness to you, this is we told our presenters 5 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna reset the timer for 7 because I really like, you've got some great stuff. Also, just to let everybody know, we will be putting this slideshow on our cada1.org/Corona page. So Jeff Culver may even be doing that as we speak. He's pretty amazing. And then we will also drop that into our chat as well, so that you can have access. All of these resources, all the slides and everything, the videos, everything that everybody is sharing tonight, you will have access to the slideshow as well as the recording of this video, which will appear later by tomorrow morning at cada1.org/Corona. And Sandy, you said go to...
You can just go to the last page. So the point of showing these was just actually the legacy part. And so I think the idea is like, since everything is virtual, making sure it's an incredible lead up. So whenever you announce anything, like make it big, which is like the pen pals, or you'll see the family videos that we made if like you want to be in this family. So all these things that are done virtual. Mahalo, you can read about it later, but instead of physically doing it, you could mail a picture of Mahalo to the next person. Return with honor, I can tell you the story later, but it's all about how you should always return with honor. So there's my information at the bottom. If you want more information on any of those things, feel free to call me and I'll be happy to chat with you.
Thanks, Andy. And by the way, we will have, because we're keeping our presenters to a stricter timeline, that will hopefully open us up for more question time at the end. Sandy, you did have a quick question, which we'll take this right now. Jamie says, I would love to know what you have your pen pals share. Can you address that now?
Yeah, and so for me, like when I read the business books about like how do you really like create something, they were a lot about like what are the legacies left behind. And so for us, we don't do the year that the person just graduated. We do a couple years out where the person's now at college or doing things. And so they look back on they're more reflective when they look back and give their pen pals ideas. So again, that's how we started it out, which was like giving advice to people. And they've all just sent me pictures, which now, of course, we're sending them little gifts in the mail and cute little things. So it's all to keep them knowing that they're a part of a legacy that not everybody gets to be on. Same with your ASB in your school. Not everybody gets that spot. It's a legacy, it's an honor, it's a privilege.
Sandy, thank you so much. And if you have questions for Sandy a little bit later on, we will have our Q&A time at the end. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and, from the Boomerang Project, one of our CADA sponsors, we have Carolyn Hill and Mary Beth Campbell. Carolyn and Mary Beth, welcome. Okay, Carolyn is unmuted. And Mary Beth, there we go. All right. Carolyn, Mary Beth, hello.
Hey. Oh, there I am. Hello. All right.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
So it's go time, right? This is it?
It's go time.
So, my name is Mary Beth, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Boomerang Project. And man, crazy times that we're living in. Sandy alluded to the fact that we've all had to adjust and become real nimble. And when I think of nimble, I don't think of anybody more nimble than educators, especially activities directors who have to always make those decisions at the last minute and sub in stuff. And the thing about being nimble and working through transition is that when you have to shift, no matter what you're doing, you might have to change the how of what you're doing, but hopefully we are always true to our values, right? And what it is we believe in. And so the how might be different, how we do the things we do, but the why is always going to be the same. And that's true for us. I mean, we are having to shift our model, which, as you guys know, requires being in proximity and touching people. And we are having to shift that pretty dramatically right now. And we are experts in this. We are experts in transition. And we have been transitioning kids for a long time. Phil Boyd can let you know how long that is. Hi, Phil. And what's funny is when people think of the Boomerang Project and they think of transition, they think of 6th and 9th graders. But the reality is that transition is not just a 6th grade or 9th grade experience. It's a human experience. We all go through transition. We're going through it right now. I mean, like, think about your life when you get married or you get divorced or you have a baby or you break up with somebody or somebody dies in your family. Those are all transitions. And what we realized here is that no matter what, when somebody goes through a transition, whether they're going into high school or middle school, or when they're experiencing something in their lives that's pretty big, you only need 3 things. You need safety, click, information, and connection. And we've built our company around these 3, or we've built the Boomerang Project around these 3 things: helping students feel safe, giving them information, and keeping them connected in schools when they transition in. And the trick is that schools look at these 3 things too, but very differently. Schools think of safety as physical safety, metal detectors, on-campus security. But kids don't think of safety that way as much. They think of safety as, if I'm emotional safety, am I going to be safe when I walk down the hall? Is someone going to hurt my feelings or hurt me? Information, we think of like, get that paper, get that form filled in, turn this in, be here. But information the kids want to know is like, am I going to be laughed at? Am I going to be left out? Where will I eat lunch? And connection, schools just say, hey, go for it. Join a club, join a team. And what we do is we create with Link Crew and Web, we create the purposeful structural connections so that they have an older student to talk to make them feel safe and get the information they need in the connection. And the how is very different how we're doing that now, but the why is still our goal, is to keep kids connected. And Carol's gonna talk about that.
Ron, click, please. So Mary Beth just talked about the OG of transition, and yet the why doesn't change. They still need safety, they still need information, and kids still need connection. Everything we do is about relationships, from activities all the way through the entire year. And so what we have done is we have designed a brand new program that is virtual Link Crew and virtual web. We have taken the absolute concept of it and put it online, because, as Sandy said, you can still do it. And what we did was boldly says, okay, if we can do it, then let's do it. So for the spring, we created a total support series for our current web and Link Crew schools. And on YouTube, you can go see us at the YouTubes. And now we continue to develop now an orientation for our schools. Ron, click, please. And so moving forward, this is where we're landing, is that virtual Link Crew and web, because what we believe is that no matter how you're opening your school this coming fall, whether you're opening face-to-face or you're opening hybrid or you're opening online, that we have an opportunity here to put a structure in place that will be the catch-all no matter what you're doing. So if you were to implement virtual Link Crew and web, you would be able to, if you open up hybrid, you have this as your home base. If you open up face-to-face and your school closes down because of that, because science is saying it's happening, you have this place to fall back on. And if you're opening online, this is your home base. So Link Crew and Web continues to create a home base for kids. For the first time ever, we're charging for something that in support of existing programs, and that is simply to stay in business. Our revenue is zero unless we charge for something. So we created a tiered pricing out of respect for budgets and how tough with all the budget cuts that are coming to schools. And so you see the 3 options there. It'll be an online training that you'd have the opportunity to. So you can look at this slide later with the details or contact us as well. Ron, click. Mary Beth, what do you got?
Oh, here's what I got. Well, Bridget Moore just asked a question. She wanted to know if this was available for new schools. So Bridget, wherever you are out there, virtual Link Crew and web is not actually available for new schools, but Onboard is. It's our virtual peer-to-peer orientation and mentorship program. And the reason we separated these two out is because there's a lot of assumed knowledge, and there's a lot of things that you learn at the 3-day basic training when you get trained, and also when you implement the program and run it at your school for years and years, that cannot be assumed by a new school. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of information there that would be difficult to translate online. But we did create this onboard orientation and transition program for schools that have never had link crew and web. So if you're interested, we would love to share it with you. Ron, click. And what you get is you can train up to 3 people for the cost of $1,500, $250 for each additional person. It starts with a 2-hour live webinar where you actually experience the virtual orientation and the small group, because like I said, the how is going to change a little bit, but the what of connecting students and small group experience is the same. And then you will get a series of videos that will guide you through the structure of how to implement the program. Ron, click. Go, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Great timing. Hey, Randy has her question in the chat there. For the web link orientation, do you suggest a live Zoom like this meeting or pre-recorded webinar? What might be best with videos of campus tours, et cetera? What are your thoughts on that question from Randy?
So hi, Randy. So the great thing, Randy, is that we are doing options. There are different options for the orientation. There is an option for a live presentation, but there's also an option that you pre-make a video and you show that video and you do that. So one of the things that we're real proud about for both onboard and link crew and web is that we devised a couple different options for people, because we know that everybody has a different experience. We've kind of, or different resources available to them. So we've tried to think about the various ways. And so really what we recommend is looking at these 3 options and choosing what's best for your particular setup and your resources that you have.
And if Mary Beth, I can just add to that, take it out of Sandy's time, is that the emphasis for this orientation is the small group, because what we recognize in web and link crew is the relationship between the leaders and the 6th and 9th graders. So we're focusing more on that in the curriculum than we are the big bang assemblies that we've always leaned on in the past, because this obviously can't happen. So just want to point that out.
We are focusing more than ever on that, creating that safety, information, and connection for those students that are coming in through that work, and relying less on that stuff on the outside, but it is still there and you can use it the way that feels best for you.
Perfect. Carolyn and Mary Beth, thank you again. Couple of questions. Carolyn and or Mary Beth, if you could answer Jill's question in the chat, and then just so we can move on to our next presenter. And then Gregory asked a really good question. Virtual connection will be tricky. Any ideas? And I think, Gregory, really what we'd like to do is, I think we're going to be hearing a lot of great ideas from our, as we already have, from our additional presenters. And then, Gregory, I want to revisit that question at the end so we can continue, because you're exactly right. But for right now, we do have from Area B, at Branham High School Activities Director, Christina Hillman. Chillman, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing well. And yeah, I'm going to talk about more of the bonding aspects of retreat, because when I spoke to my students, I love what Sandy said about including the students. When I spoke to them about like what they think our biggest challenges are going to be in terms of our normal retreat we do over the summer, they were very concerned about how we would all connect virtually. So I put some ideas together for that. So you can go to the next slide. Alrighty, so the first thing that I think really always just creates moments where the kids can laugh together and kind of create those inside jokes are games. So I tried to look at different games that would translate well to a virtual setting. So these are some of the ideas that I came up with. I have a link to a detailed document that's going to come at the end, just so you guys know, that'll kind of lay out all of the different specifics about these games. I did put that document together this weekend when I was also planning graduation. That was today. So I will be refining it, but it's a place to start. So the first one is Zoom Pictionary. And that basically, there's 2 versions you could play of that. You could do like a quick version as a little giggly transition where you give a student a word, you can send it to them privately through the Zoom chat, and then they have kind of like a piece of paper up behind them, and they draw on it, and everyone else watches, and they type in the chat rapid fire what they think they're drawing. Whoever can guess first wins. Another version you could do is you could put them on teams and give each student a word, and then kind of go in a chain. So that's a really just fun, quick and easy thing for students to do. Virtual Things. Things is one of my favorite board games of all time. For those who've played it, it would translate really well virtually. You basically give them a topic, and I've linked a bunch of topics into that document I talked about, like things that shouldn't happen at the dentist, and then they all have to come up with things. You can have them message it to the moderator privately, and then the moderator can read some of the things people came up with, and they can guess sort of who came up with that different thing. It kind of gets you to know each other. Breakout Room Hot Seat. Hot Seat is actually a game I learned from camp when I've worked it over the past couple summers, and the kids really love it. It's a way to get to know each other. You basically have a student sit in the hot seat. You remind the students they can answer or they can ask that student questions that are obviously appropriate to get to know them better, and also the student in the hot seat always has the right to pass. But the kids really love it, and it's a fun way for them to get to know each other and learn just fun little facts. And that would be really good in like a breakout room in a smaller setting, maybe like 6 to 7 students. And then Zoom Scavenger Hunt. We have a rally game that we play that I'm sure a ton of other schools play called Scavenger Hunt, where basically you say an item and then the person has to like run down and deliver the item. And this translated really well to Zoom. I played it with my ASB students one day when we just needed a fun moment, and you just kind of say items they might have in their room, and they can run and hold it up and show what they have, and keep their own score. You could do it by class. You could do it in a lot of different ways. You could have them on teams. So the details about that are also in the document. Next. So special delivery. I know one of the other things that I've seen happen in this virtual Corona time to kind of connect is a lot of people have been delivering things to their students. And so if you just want to take it to the next level and feel compelled to do that, I know a lot of us like to do a campfire type activity with our students at some point during retreats, where you get a little bit deeper. Sometimes it's a literal campfire. Ours always is. And a really cute thing that I saw, actually got the idea from a company, is they delivered all of their employees a little individual campfire kit. They also delivered it with a small candle that they could roast the marshmallow on. I don't advise that, but I did find some instructions for like a microwave s'more. So you could include that in the kit and kind of deliver it to them with a little like encouraging note about how excited you are to get to know them better at campfire, and then get into whatever that bonding activity is that you guys like to do. And it could kind of like set the tone and make it seem authentic and like you guys are hopefully around a real campfire. And then the other special delivery item that I thought of is a cute little ASB survival kit. So I also spoke to my students about essential things for an ASB student to know. It could make the students feel just welcomed into the class and feel like it's a safe space for them, kind of give them some pro tips, especially for new students, as it can be kind of intimidating to be new. So some of the items are an encouraging note, an ASB sticker, because we always stick together, a paintbrush. It's always hard to find a good one. I know people feel me on that one. Something related to your mascot, something related to your theme, blue tape, because that's, I mean, I feel like that's every leadership kid's best friend. So you could deliver that to all of your students. Next slide. Okay, and then the last one is some things that you can do just for fun. I really focus a lot on trying to create like an ASB family, because I think when students feel safe together and they feel like a family, they're gonna work harder together, they're gonna feel more comfortable working together, and they're gonna be a lot more bonded, and that's just gonna result in a really great year. So we've been kind of casually sharing recipes randomly on our Zoom class periods. Like when someone has a new one, they share it. And I thought it would be really cool to put out there to the class, everyone submit your favorite like family recipe or a recipe you love, and then putting like an ASB family recipe book together. And then challenging them to like cook someone else's recipe and share a photo of it. And if you guys use like GroupMe or whatever, that would be a really good way to just kind of bond, and it's easy, it's low risk for students. Because some of them don't feel as comfortable with the games. TV show or movie club is just like a book club, but kids could get together and be like in a club where they discuss a TV show or movie that they love. And then last but not least, Adopt a Freshman is when you could have a group of your older students adopt one of your incoming new freshmen, and kind of like give them challenges each day, like send them an encouraging text, send them a pro tip about ASB, send them a book you love, and get them connected. Ask them a question, and then, yeah, that'll hopefully get your new ASB students more acquainted, whether they're freshmen or not. So yeah, that's it. And then the bit.ly to that doc is down there.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. And like Christina was saying, that you can find that link. Whoops. You can find that bit.ly link right there. Also, I just got the update from Jeff Culver. Jeff, if you can just corroborate that. The slideshow is linked on cada1.org/corona. Is that correct, Jeff?
That is true, and I do enjoy a good corroboration, so yes.
Wonderful. All right, well, Christina, thank you once again. And we are now moving on to our next presenter, speaker and author, and he's also the founder of Learning for Living. Please welcome Phil Boyd. Hello, Phil.
Hey, y'all. Greetings from North Carolina, where we put sugar in our tea and we have humidity. So it's good to see your smiles. And I just want to take a moment and celebrate Carolyn and Maribeth. We talked a week or two ago, and I heard in their voice their passion for their why about this transition and just how important it is. And so while Carolyn, you're looking here, I just want to applaud you guys because, man, to find out on March 15th or 13th, it blew, our whole world is going to be going, as everybody's changed, but yours changed in such a powerful way. And you could have easily said, hey, we'll pass for a year, let's move on, but you didn't do that. And so publicly, I want to look you in the eye and just smile, clap, and say, hey, I wish you guys so much luck as you guys move into that. And so, peace, my friend. I also want to say thank you to each one of you who are tuning in. I asked Paul, I think he's on here, at what point are you full? At what point do you have enough? Because so many of you are on every webcast, every live, everything just filling your buckets. And I love, Paul, what you said. You said, I'm keeping a journal for the next 10 years. There's so many good ideas that are coming out now. And I watch some of these graduations, and I think some kids are getting more attention through these drive-through graduations than they would sitting a sea of 500 or 600 students on a football stadium. And so there's some bright sides to some of the challenges we're going through. And so those of you that are bright side thinkers, I want to applaud you and say thank you for that, because throughout all this, I hope and trust that we're going to find those bright sides. What I wanted to talk about tonight, because really two products that we have. One is Breaking Down the Walls, where we take a couple hundred kids into the gym. We spend 6 hours giving them permission to talk to anybody and everybody. And the results so often are when we get done, I feel like I can talk to anybody on my campus. If there's ever been a time to do that, we need to do it. That's why if you start out with a link crew or a web orientation, it sets that. And at some point, when we get back to a place where kids can connect, we'd love to partner with you on that. But more than that, I really want to emphasize, if you'll click to the next slide. Now, I don't have the Sandy Curlin number of slides. I've only got a couple because I am Phil Boyd at the end of this. But how do you create a positive staff culture? You got to realize that there's some adults that are hurting really significantly right now. COVID rocked their world because all of a sudden they're from home and they get their juice from being in halls, those high fives, those fist bumps, those smiles, the tears. And now for the last couple months, they've been working harder, I hear it over and over and over, than they've ever worked. And now with the situation that's come up in the last couple of days where our cities are under siege and people aren't sure what to expect, and we want to be supportive, and our emotions are raw. And so I'm going to ask you to do this somehow, some way, talk it over with your admin team, or if you admin listing here because we're doing some culture summit workshops this summer. We have one starting this week. In 2 weeks, we have another one to talk about how do you create the culture of a school that no one wants to leave. And one of my friends is a client who really wanted to come, especially this year because there's no travel involved, there's no hotels involved. She said, I couldn't get a team because we have so much to do. And I understood it on one level, but my heart broke on the other because tasks will get in the way of relationships every time. Because at the end of the day, we look at what we got done. But if we can go back to this quote that I love, we're people first and professionals second. And if our hearts are healthy, then we're ready for almost anything that's thrown at us. 5 years ago, people were saying, hey, how do we deal with cell phones in the classroom? 2 years ago, people started talking about how do we deal with vaping in the bathroom? And now it's how do we provide kids with a social, emotionally healthy platform to learn. And now we're going to be talking about equity, and we're going to be talking about so many things that are culturally relevant. And we're going to ask the teachers to do that. Well, if you've ever read my book, School Culture by Design, the first chapter talks about silos and the dangers of those silos. Because when we get in silos, we become redundant. We become oftentimes bitter. It's when we get out, we have lawn chair lunch, or we go to a movie together. We just take a walk around the track and check in with each other, that we become healthier. So I'm going to encourage you, whether you work with us, you work with your own team, please find a way to connect with each other because staff health is the key. If you hit the next slide, Roland Barthes, I think, was in education for 35, 40 years, and he had this. The relationships among the adults on the school has a greater influence. And you think about this, I don't have a graphic for this, you have to use my hands, but we've spent the last 15 or 20 years working so hard on student achievement. We want our students to be ready. I was talking to Tim Lyles the other day. When he took over as principal, they had 37% of their students were A to G ready. His goal, their school core value is 100% A to G ready. Well, just this year, they found out they're at 67% A to G ready in a really tough community. So that student achievement is critical, but we got to keep it balanced with culture because otherwise it's going to collapse on itself. We always have had kids who were doing self-harm, cutting and burning, but I think we've seen more and more of it over the last 10 or 15 years. If we can balance that culture, and I think it starts with the adults. What's that quote? If mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And if the staff is happy and healthy and on all cylinders, then we have a chance. And so I would invite you to find ways. One little perfect example, whether you're working with a retreat like Christina was talking about, or you're just getting together with a team of 5 or 10 of you, start with an activity like pennies. Have everybody bring a coin on a Zoom call or in person. They bring a coin and just say, hey, take a look at the year that coin was minted. Tell us something significant that happened in your life that year. And all of a sudden, people look at the coin, maybe it's 2009, 2003. They might say, oh, that was the year I got my master's degree, and I was all of a sudden eligible to do this, or that was the year my twins were born, or that was the year that my spouse or my partner had cancer. And all of a sudden, the story comes out, and as people start to connect on that level, they start walking out of those meetings a little bit different. They have a little bit more empathy in the meeting. They're more willing to go the courageous conversation and say, wait, I don't know if that's best. It takes courage for someone. Another thing I'd encourage you to do is spend time carefully thinking about how you're going to onboard new folks this year. Because the folks who have been there, they have a team. They knew who to sit with at lunch or in faculty meetings, but those new people, those 5 or 10 people that are new to your campus, who's got their eye out for them? Maybe take the link crew model, the web model, and use it for those new staff members. Because all of a sudden, maybe for the first 3 months, someone checks in with them on a pretty regular basis. Can you imagine the power of creating the healthiest staff ever during this season? What will it lead to 3, 4, 5 years from now, hopefully when things get back to healthy? So last thing I want to say is thank you for who you are and for what you do, because the impact you have ripples beyond anything we can ever understand. So cheers, my friend. It's a privilege to be with you, and it was so worth staying up late tonight just to hear these ideas. Christina, I got a page full of ideas from what you shared, so thanks, my friend.
Phil, thank you so much. And Phil, I always love listening to your voice. It's soothing and comforting. And Phil, so happy to have you here tonight. So thank you.
Yep.
All right. Our next presenter is on the area, is on the CADA Board of Directors. She is also on the Area G Council. She's currently the Area H lead. She wears many hats. She is the lovely and talented Denise Van Dorn. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everyone. All I do is think here, and over the last couple of weeks, you've taken away my weapon. My best and strongest weapon is personal connections. And so the first thing I started thinking about was, how am I going to do this? And I read a book long ago, of course you all know, of Stephen Covey's Sharpen the Saw. That means your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. And so I got to thinking about what would it look like? And I started doing some fill thinking, like, well, what would happen about this? And what if that? So all of you amazing people I've learned so much from. In fact, some of the things I'll be talking about here today were inspired in the last webcast from Scott Bakovich, Laura Saldana, Aaron Tobias, and Petra Davis Johnson. Thank you all, because it's helped me get out of my, I don't know, a funk. Like, am I in disbelief? Is this really going to happen? And I've had many chapters in my career, and this is hopefully my latter chapter of education, but I want to end strong, and keep learning. So sharpening the saw was really important to me. So then I got to thinking, okay, well, what do I know for sure? I know for sure that people are most important, and you have to be intentional with relationships. You have to have frequent communications. And as Scott Bakovich said, creating personal moments more than large scale events, because you took away my large scale events. So what can I focus on? One of the things I've worked on is really communicating with parents. Now, mind you, I'm a middle school teacher, and my daughter is 10 and approaching middle school. And I recognize, like, I really kind of like that connection with the teacher. So I'm kind of hoping that those parents have appreciated my connection with them during this transition. So now what? What am I going to do? What are my resources going to be? So I got to thinking about what I have already. And certainly I've already mentioned CADA and going to camp, even virtually going to camp, sending some students there. But I also had to think of some of the things I have in my own resources. My district website has all kinds of resources on how to sharpen my saw. Because if I need to engage those students, I have to do it in a way that suits them and meets them where they're at. So that's district training, books. Brene Brown is my favorite right now. Podcasts. It was funny, I'm driving to Del Mar today to get my, I had a filling, and I finally got to be by myself in my car, and I got to listen to a podcast. So those are those quiet moments. Turning on my Instagram hat and Facebook for my students as well. I'm a big fan in my regular teaching of Kagan strategies, and I'm trying to think through how I can make those Kagan strategies work online. Quantum learning is always a big thing with me, and having to do with music. And one of my best trainings ever, of course, was Boomerang Project. So thank you, Carolyn and Mary Beth, for keeping that pulse alive. Next slide, please. All right, so I got to thinking, chunks. Let me chunk this out. What are the most important things? First of all, personal attention. So I wanted to share some ideas with you on things that I've done so far before school, what I'm thinking about for my retreat, training, and then ongoing in this next year. So I did a welcome celebration with a ceremony with my students for this year and next year. So I put a slide deck together. I invited both my outgoing and my incoming students, made a big celebration out of it, video and all those kinds of things. And people, I'm telling you, I've never done these things before. So I was like on high alert and just, like I said, sharpening my saw. Personal phone calls. Like I said, I made the best contacts with parents and with students. I use Remind as a resource as well. But also I've created some Google surveys in the classroom. So I've invited my students into the new Google class and just some get to know you survey ideas. That's what I'm planning on doing before school starts. Okay, through all of this, making it a safe place is threaded through my mind. So the things that I've done in the classroom would be things like table topics. When you walk in the classroom, have a quick topic to share at your table group. At my school, we've always done circles. So we would do sequential and non-sequential circles with a simple topic. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you feel about staying up late until midnight to do a training. I just get all ideas from doing things like that. I'm learning about, well, let me take it back to circles. Next is siblings. I've taken that from Sandy Curlin and Castle. My students love having a sibling. I do it for all of my classes, ASB, Avid, and Yearbook. We all have siblings. We celebrate birthdays and half birthdays. It's great. I'm learning how to work out breakout rooms, do fun challenges, and my students love teen talk at lunch. So they bring up the topic and we eat. They don't even want to leave the room. It's really crazy. Sometimes it's on the edge of uncomfortable, but hey, you can't go wrong with those middle schoolers, right? So then I got to thinking, all right, my leadership training and retreat. I listed all the things that in my past years of doing retreats of what I've done. So mentally in my mind, my next steps is to figure out how will I do icebreakers, energizers, team builders, skill shops, self-awareness, calendaring, priority setting, and turning it on to the students so that the students can help teach the new incoming students. So back to that, which was the last bullet on this slide, is peer learning. Giving a task to a returning student to virtually train the next person. Certainly I won't be able to teach them how to do a balloon arch very effectively, but we can do a lot of other things with publicity and the use of the internet. Next, I want to use more of my executive committee. So I'll probably have regular Zoom meetings this summer just to talk to my executive team and my second years. And then that way they can be prepared for the next year. And I want to put it back to them, the autonomy, like Sandy was saying. Next, please. So I still have some wonderings. Allison asked me, and I'm like, oh, really? I don't know if I have this yet because I don't know how to teach experimentally. I have started taking some online classes. How do I do time management on online classes? Where do I get my ongoing support and how do I support my students? How can I be engaging as a teacher and as a learner? And how to manage these Zoom meetings and, oh goodness, Google Classroom. My students just got an iPad for the first time this year. And I'm like, oh, I don't need it right now. We're not into it just yet. And lo and behold, this is hard and fast. I'm picking up the ropes and trying to go for it. I hope those things helped you. If you need any more information, I'm glad to help. Just shoot me an email and I'll share with you anything you need. Thanks.
Denise, thank you so much. And I was writing down a bunch of ideas. I love that. Thank you, Denise. Hey, before we get to our final presenter, and that is Johan, I did want to ask this question on behalf of Valerie, because I promised Valerie that I would get her question out there. Valerie is asking, do you have any recommendations? This is to everybody, so please answer, give a shout out to Valerie, answer in the chat if you have books to help kids learn about acceptance, celebrating others, social justice, celebrating our differences, celebrating our diversity. We are going to be, I don't want to steal your thunder, Allison. I know that's going to be part of our topic, big topic of discussion in a couple weeks. But I thought if we can get the ball rolling now and start generating some ideas. So if you have any suggestions for books for Valerie, go ahead and throw those in the chat. Thank you. Okay, and we are now ready for our final presenter of the evening. Please welcome Johan. Johan, great to have you here. Johan, you may need to unmute yourself.
Okay, great.
Oh, there we go.
All right,
we got
I wasn't sure if that was you just had that power.
No, you're all good.
So,
welcome.
Great. Good to be here. I want to share a story with you guys, and that story is about the time that my mother defeated a ferocious pit bull. My mom is 5'1". She is a Puerto Rican woman from the inner city of Chicago. She has a soft, sweet voice. Right now, a lot of people, so she's Puerto Rican, but people say she looks like Meryl Streep. And so I want you to imagine this very soft-spoken woman defeating a pit bull. And the reason why that happened was our family has a dog. Now, this dog is he was the friendliest dog in the world. I don't know if you guys have like that type of pet that just loves to walk up to everybody and like greet everybody. I feel like there's different types of pet. There's like the antisocial pet that doesn't want to have anything to do with anyone. And then there's like the really super friendly pet that just makes friends with the whole world. And our dog, Junie, was that kind of dog. So we go to walk him one evening in Chicago, and Junie comes out, and he's just kind of trotting, being friendly to everyone, saying hello, saying hi, saying what's up, making friends with neighbors. And then there's a lady who's walking two pit bulls down the block. Now here's the thing, when we walk Junie, for the most part, like, we wouldn't walk him with a leash. And so Junie trots up to these pit bulls, and he just wants to say hello, and one of the pit bulls clamps on to Junie's ear. And this kind of, like, I don't know if you see the superhero movies where you have like things just get into like slow motion mode. And so here we are, me and my brother are standing side by side, and we just like look at each other like what we're gonna do. And before we could blink, our mom is like moving in slow motion mode, and she's just like approaching this pit bull. She grabs one of the ears of the pit bull, and she's just like pummeling the face of this pit bull in front of us. And for those of you guys that know pit bulls, they don't let go quickly. So our dog is squealing in pain, obviously being hurt, and our mom, you know, is hitting, and she's realizing this is not working. And then she moves to the back legs of the pit bull because she's like, okay, I got to do the next thing. So she moves to the back legs, and she like grabs the back legs and flips the pit bull over. Before you know it, this pit bull lets go of our family dog, and Junie just starts to like trot home safely. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this yet, but I've talked to kids who experience the same pain in this time, who are like, it feels like we're being bitten. It feels like we're being attacked by life. And it feels like we don't know how to get out of the jaws of this pain and this devastation. And I don't know if some of you guys are feeling like, well, maybe it's our job to like keep hitting. And I think part of what I get to provide is this opportunity where I start to hit for you. Because maybe you're Junie, our kids can be Junie at different times. I can be my mom, you can be my mom. And how do we provide space so that ideas can be introduced, so we can have intimate conversations, even though we have these limitations? So if you can, you know, go to the next slide, Ron. Part of the invitation for us right now is, will we be people who continue to swing away and adapt? Because what's happening right now is not only do we have the bite of the COVID crisis, but we have the bite of an economic crisis. And now we have the bite of, you know, what we're experiencing, some are calling a race war. And so how do we keep on swinging until we can flip this thing over? Because it's more than one thing right now. What I've been able to do is continue to show up and swing. So I served the school, Dos Pueblos, actually in Santa Barbara, and they had an event, and the temptation was to cancel, which I'm sure all of us have that urge right now. So they said, okay, our seniors, this is their final year. Usually I would come to the school. They said, why don't you come in? Let's work together to figure out what can we do for our seniors to send them off in style. So I basically had a Q&A with them to figure out what are the different needs of the school right now. I cooked up a 15-minute virtual talk for them, sent it to the school. And then I had a Q&A with about 6 of their students, and then they presented that to the whole school. And one of the things, again, is just like not allowing the devastation, the pain, or the bite to hold us back, but saying, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep showing up. We're gonna keep shifting until we flip this thing over. And after speaking to their kids, they were like, man, this was the thing that we needed to end our year in style, really, to end our year with a little bit of hope. And I think you guys already know that. I feel like now more than ever, like my line of work, this line of work is so necessary, because these insights or these ideas are so crucial for us in terms of hope and resilience. Like, how do we keep moving forward in this time that makes us feel so helpless? What do we do? So even with workshops, I have a couple of workshops, you know, turning stress into strength, providing some workshops for different schools. You know, so many kids are like, I feel so stressed out, I feel overwhelmed. And that's one of the things that I'm able to do, is kind of walk them through, well, here's what you can do to turn that stress, anxiety, overwhelmed feeling into strength. So there's a couple other workshops that I have to provide there. A town hall meeting that I had with actually an AVID group. So again, they brought all their issues, all their problems, all their gripes, and we just laid it all on the ground. And we said, you know, how do we deal with this stuff? What are some solutions? What are some action points that we could take? And that Q&A, and just even allowing space for the kids to just speak was really, really powerful. Just for them to get off their chest what they're dealing with was really, really powerful. This is something that I did with Castle in terms of the Instagram live interview session. I had a really cool session with Andrea, and just to have one of their peers present, show up, interact with me was super powerful for her. I actually started mentoring her afterwards because she said that she wanted to be a speaker. And so her and I had been having conversations, you know, afterwards. I also do developmental consulting, strategic planning, which is pretty self-explanatory in and of itself. And then the rest of the slides are about personal coaching, which I also do. So I've been trained by Novus Global, which is an elite coaching firm. And one of the beautiful things that we get to do there is help people figure out how to strengthen their mind so that they can get through anything. And I think right now, more than ever, that's exactly what each and every one of us needs. And that's something that I provide for teachers, administration, as well as for students.
All right. Well, Johan, thank you. And there's Johan's contact information if you'd like to reach out to him. All right. So I think, Allison, before we get to a Q&A, if anybody has any questions, because we're almost to the 8 o'clock point. Allison, did you want to talk about the event that is going to be coming up in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, just briefly. Thank you, Ron. If you want to switch to that slide. So equity has been something that's very near and dear to my heart, and promoting that on our campuses. And I think now more than ever is the time to, for some of us, start the conversation on our campus, for others, continue that conversation. So we're going to have a panel of 6 people, including some of our CADA sponsors and some of our members, to talk about what this looks like and how we can begin to address it and hit it head on when we return in the fall. So stay tuned. We'll have more details coming out in the next week. I was really focusing on this, putting the planning together for tonight. But I do have some plans going for this, and some really great speakers who are going to talk to us about this, administrators as well as professional speakers and members. So looking forward to it, and we hope you guys will all join us. Tell a friend.
All right. Well, and speaking of the programs and the all the things that we're trying to offer to help help educators and help our members, if you liked this, we've done a bunch of others going back a couple of months now. You can check all of those out at www.cada1.org/corona. All the past events, the recordings, the slideshows, all those great ideas, as well as information on future events that are upcoming. And I'll go ahead and just make a quick plug. There we go. Hey, it's all of us together again. Just a quick plug. If you like these events, if you find these helpful and valuable, like I said, the CADA organization, we are trying to provide all of these resources to bring us together and share these great ideas. Starting in August, Allison, correct? These events will be for members only. Right now, we're just trying to get them out to everybody. But starting in August, they will be just for our members as a member benefit. So if you are checking us out and you are not yet a CADA member, please come and join us. You can find out more information about becoming a CADA member on cada1.org. Any final thoughts or final questions? I'm seeing a lot of thank yous. So thank you so much to all of our presenters for joining us tonight, and thank you. So this is one of the things that I do with my kids on Zoom, so that we don't have to unmute ourselves. Is we do the is this the sign language for applause? Am I getting that correct? So applause, several applause for all of our presenters. Thank you so much. And folks, I'm not seeing any other questions come up in the chat. And so if that is the case, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to call it. Wow, my goodness, 7:59 p.m. But thank you again, Allison or Jeff or any of our board members. Any other last words before we sign off for the evening?
I was just going to say that, you know, we are trying to address your needs. So as you are sending us topics that are important to you, we're trying to find the right speakers and presenters. And we plan on carrying this through, as, you know, I can't speak past March, but certainly until March, we'll be continuing at least monthly topics. I know one of the topics that's really pressing on people's minds right now, in addition to equity, is also the trauma-informed classroom. And so that is going to be another big topic that we're going to tackle in the months ahead. So keep tuning in. Those of you who are in Area H, you can have an affiliate membership. I think it's called an affiliate membership. And continue to keep in touch with all of this as well. So thanks for being here, everybody. And thanks, Ron, for being a great host, and Jeff for doing all the magic behind the scenes. It was wonderful. Great night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night. Phil, I think that